तो कैसे हैं आप लोग। शुरू करते हैं बिना किसी बकचोदी के।
So, starting thermodynamics with its meaning itself. The word thermodynamics is made up of two words, which is the therm and the dynamic. The word therm is a Greek word which means heat, and dynamic means the force. So, in thermodynamics, we are going to deal with these two words, or the science or the physics behind these two words. Now, the next question is, what is the aim of thermodynamics? So, the main aim of thermodynamics is to convert the disorganized form of energy into organized form, and mostly in an efficient manner. So, for an example, the heat is the disordered form of energy or the disorganized form of energy. Now, we use the thermodynamics concept to convert this disorganized form of energy into an organized form, which will be the shaft work or maybe the other kind of work. And this is the answer why we need to learn the thermodynamics. But now, let's see what is the need or what is the weightage of thermodynamics from exam point of view. So every year you will find about 8 to 12% of questions based on this topic. So in the 100 marks paper, 10 to 12% is a big number. So without wasting time, let's start with the subject. The first thing comes in thermodynamics is the system. Now what is the system? The definition of system is, it is the region in space upon which the study is focused or concentrated. Suppose you have a metal piece and we are doing an observation on that metal piece, that on giving heat, how much the temperature is changing, how much its volume is rising or decreasing. So in that case, that metal piece will be our system. Now the most important thing to keep in mind is that there can't be 2 or 3 systems at one time. There will be only one system at one time. For example, 2 blocks, one is at high temperature and one is at low temperature. As we know, naturally the heat will flow from higher temperature body to the lower temperature. So in the first case, if you want to study on block A, then only block A will be your system and the block B will act as the surrounding for your system A. Next comes the surrounding. Now what is surrounding? Anything external to the system is known as the surrounding. So as we seen in our example, there was 2 blocks. If we focus on one block, the other block will be the surrounding for first case and vice versa. Now we have seen the system and surrounding. Now the boundary. The mean by which the system and surrounding is separated. This is called as the boundary. Since we have studied the system and surrounding, now if we combine these both, then this combination or the summation of system and surrounding is called as the universe. Let's understand this with the help of figure. You can see here the system on which our focus or our study is concentrated. Now external or everything external to our system is the surrounding, and you can see that external box which represents the combination of system and surrounding, which simply means the combination of system and surrounding is nothing but the universe. Okay, so moving ahead, the system is further divided into 2 main categories. First is the control mass system and second is the control volume system. Now what is control mass system and what is control volume system? Have you heard about this? So defined as the system in which the mass of the system will remain constant. There can be the energy flow, but in control mass system, the mass of the system will remain constant. Now the control mass system is also further divided into two types, which are closed system and isolated system. In closed system, mass will remain constant, but the transfer of energy is allowed. That is, work or heat can transfer the boundary of the system, but not the mass. Piston cylinder arrangement as shown here with no walls is a best example for the closed system. Here you can see that the mass will within the system will remain same, but the heat or the work may transfer the boundary of the system. The second is our isolated system. In isolated system, neither the mass will transfer nor the energy, which means it is completely isolated from its surrounding. You might have seen the isolated container used for tea, generally called as the thermos. It is the best example for isolated system. So keep in mind there are two types of system, control mass and control volume. And control mass is further categorized as closed and isolated. Now moving ahead, the control volume system. In control volume system, both the mass and energy transfer is allowed within a specified region of space, which we called as the control volume, and hence the corresponding system is called as the control volume system. So now moving ahead to one of the most important part of thermodynamics, which are the approaches to study thermodynamics. There are two approaches to study thermodynamics. First is the microscopic approach and second is macroscopic. Now let's see what is microscopic and what is macroscopic. In microscopic approach, the behavior of individual molecules is taken into consideration. And this approach is also called as the statistical thermodynamics, which means in microscopic approach, we study or work on the molecular or atomic level in macroscopic approach, which is beyond the scope of our study. Now the macroscopic approach. In macroscopic approach, the behavior of individual molecules is not considered. In spite of that, the average behavior of molecules is taken into consideration, and this approach is also called as the classical thermodynamics. And in our course, we are going to deal with this macroscopic approach, or we can also call the classical thermodynamic approach. So up till now, we have seen the meaning of thermodynamics, aim to study thermodynamics, its weightage in the GATE exam. Next, the system. There are two types of system, control mass and control volume. Further, the control mass is categorized into two, that is the closed system and isolated system. After system, we also learned about the surrounding and the universe. The universe, which is the combination of system and surrounding. Moving ahead, we came across the microscopic and macroscopic approach. Now, the next important concept in thermodynamics is the thermodynamic equilibrium. So there are few properties or few states based on which we can say that the system is in thermal equilibrium, which is in thermodynamic equilibrium or not. So what's that condition? Let's see one by one. So if a system is said to be in thermodynamic equilibrium if it is in thermal equilibrium, mechanical equilibrium and chemical equilibrium simultaneously. Again, there are three new terms, that is the mechanical equilibrium, thermal equilibrium and chemical equilibrium. Let's understand this one by one. thermal equilibrium, as its name suggests, thermal, temperature. So if there are two bodies or two blocks, if their temperature is same, then we can say that it is in thermal equilibrium. Same in case of mechanical. In mechanical equilibrium, we generally equate the forces or pressure. If there are equal forces or pressure, or the net force or net pressure within the system is zero, then we can say that this system is in mechanical equilibrium. For example, if there is a pipe, the pressure at one end is greater and the pressure on other hand will be less. So naturally the flow will takes place from higher pressure side to the lower pressure side. So in this case, we cannot say that it is in equilibrium position because the flow is taking place. Hence, to make the system mechanically equilibrium, the forces and the pressure within the system will remain constant or equal. And the third and last is the chemical equilibrium. Chemical equilibrium says that within a system there should not be any chemical reaction taking place when we are observing that system. For example, if there is combustion of fuel taking place in an cylinder or in an engine, so during this combustion the fuel energy gets converted into heat, so we cannot say that it is in equilibrium position. Hence, for chemical equilibrium there should not be any chemical reaction within the system. And combining all these three, that is the thermal, mechanical and chemical equilibrium, if all these three equilibriums are achieved, then we can say that the system is in thermodynamic equilibrium. Now moving in the actual thermodynamics part, and the first thing comes is property. Now what is property? And property is the term which we use to define the state of a system. In thermodynamics, we define properties are the characteristics of the system. And the example of properties are pressure, temperature, volume, density, mass, etc. Now, the properties are also of two types. First is the intensive property and second is the extensive property. Intensive property. Intensive property are those properties which are independent of size or mass. For example, the pressure, temperature, density, thermal conductivity, viscosity, etc. Now I am just giving you the examples. In upcoming part we will discuss all of them in detail. तो ऐसी प्रॉपर्टी जो मास पे डिपेंड नहीं है या साइज पे डिपेंड नहीं है सिस्टम के, उसे कहते हैं इंटेंसिव प्रॉपर्टी. प्रेशर, अब सिस्टम का मास कम हो या ज़्यादा हो बट प्रेशर उससे इंडिपेंडेंट है. टेम्परेचर, सपोज एक बॉडी है जिसका टेम्परेचर है 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस और उसका मास है 10 kg. नाउ यू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट देम इनटू टू पार्ट्स, 5 kg 5 kg, but still the temperature of both the parts will remain same, that is the 10 degree Celsius and 10 degree Celsius, which means the temperature is not dependent on the mass of the system and hence it is called as the intensive property. The second is our extensive property. We have seen intensive properties and opposite to that is our extensive property. Extensive properties are those properties which depends on mass. For example, volume, all form of energy, etc. Suppose I have tank whose volume is 1 meter cube. So the amount of water stored in that tank will be 1000 kg. But if I increase the volume of that tank, then the mass can be stored within that tank will also change. Hence, in this case, as volume increases, the mass is also increases. That means volume is dependent on mass and hence we call this as the extensive property. Same in case of energy. Suppose there is kinetic energy, and kinetic energy is given by 1 by 2 mv square. If we change the mass, the kinetic energy of the system will change, hence dependent on property, which means it is an extensive property. You can see the numericals or questions based on this topic, this single topic, in number of times in the GATE and ESE exam, because this is one of the most confusing topic in the starting of thermodynamics itself. But but I will discuss with you the simplest way to determine whether the property is extensive property or intensive property. So let's see how. So now what you have to do, I will give you one property and you have to divide into two parts. After dividing, if the magnitude of that property will remain same, then it is an intensive property, otherwise it's an extensive property. So first, density. If I give you a block whose density is 8000 kg per meter cube, and now if you divided that block into two parts, will its density change? If yes, then it is an extensive property. If no, then it is an intensive property. Think about it. Same in the case of volume and same in the case of thermal conductivity. If I gave you a block whose volume is 1 meter cube, and if you divide it into two parts, then two equal parts, then the one part will be of 0.5 meter cube and other will be of 0.5 meter cube. Here what happens, the volume gets divided, or the size get divided, or the sides get reduced, hence it is an extensive property. The next is the thermal conductivity. If I give you a rod, a copper rod, whose thermal conductivity is suppose 300 watt per meter Kelvin. Now if you divide or if you break that rod into two parts, will its thermal conductivity change? No, its thermal conductivity will not change, because thermal conductivity is not dependent on the mass or size. It will not change after dividing into two parts. Hence, it is an intensive property of a system, or it is an intensive property of that material. So that is how you can simply determine whether the property is an extensive property or intensive. Now, after this lecture, solve previous year GATE and ESE questions. You will find questions based on this topic over there. And if you don't have study material, follow our Telegram channel. There you can get the updated material. Now, one more important note point, that all specific extensive properties are intensive properties. Means specific volume, specific enthalpy, specific energy, etc. All these are intensive property. But let's understand what is specific property. So, if you divide an extensive property, that is the enthalpy or volume or some other extensive property, with mass, it will become the specific enthalpy or specific volume. And this specific enthalpy or specific volume is an intensive property. There are few more important properties or few more important points about properties, which are: first, properties are point functions or state function. Now what is point function or what is state function? We will see this further. But for now, keep in mind that property are the point functions or state functions. Second, properties are independent of past history. And the third is properties are exact differentials. Properties are exact differentials. This is all about property. Now moving towards our next important topic, which is the state of a system. Again one question, what is this state? Suppose I told you to define a system and its condition. Then you say, sir, its volume is XYZ, or suppose its temperature is ABC, etc. So what you had done, you took help of the properties to define a system, and the condition shown by these properties are called as the state of the system. So simply, the condition of a system is known as the state of a system. Now, the condition of the system is specified by means of its properties, as we seen earlier. As long as the properties will remain constant, condition of the system or the state of system will also remain fixed or also remain constant. Now, next is the process. One more question. What is process? Suppose I started heating a gas whose initial temperature is 10 degrees Celsius. Then its temperature increases on heating to 15 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius, 25 degrees Celsius, in that way. And this change of state or state point is known as the process. The change of state or state point is known as the process. So in second half we learned about the property, then its type, that is the intensive property and extensive property. After that, the state of a system and process. Now the last topic for this lecture is Gibbs phase rule. So what is Gibbs phase rule and what's its use? And the answer is, Gibbs phase rule is used to give or determine the maximum number of independent variables or intensive properties required to show the state of a system. अब मतलब समझते हैं इसका. गिब्स फेस रूल ये हमें बताता है कि मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंट इंटेंसिव प्रॉपर्टीज हमें कितनी लगने वाली है एक सिस्टम की स्टेट डिफाइन करने के लिए. And it is given by the equation P plus F equals to C plus 2. So now P over here is the phase or the number of phases. Second, F, degree of freedom or the maximum number of independent intensive properties or maximum number of independent variables required to show the state of a system or the maximum number of independent intensive properties. The next is C. C means the number of components. Now suppose there is a container containing gas. So it is in gas phase, that means phase single phase. So P equals to 1. Only one gas, that means component equals to 1. If we put these both in the given equation, then we will get F equals to 2. That means it required two intensive properties to define its states. Means if you wish to define the state of that gas, you either require temperature or volume, or temperature or pressure or volume. That means any two independent variables. Now second example. Mixture of steam and water. Here the number of phases is 2, that is steam and water. Component is still 1. What? H2O. After plugging both these components in the given equation, we get F equals to 1. Means if I say pressure is 1 bar or 1 atmospheric, then we know that at atmospheric pressure, boiling temperature of water is 100 degrees Celsius. Which also means that we only require one property to define the state, that is either temperature, that is 100 degrees Celsius, or pressure 1 atmospheric. If I say pressure equal to 1 atmospheric, then it is obvious that the saturation temperature or the boiling point will be 100 degrees Celsius. Or if I say for 100 degrees Celsius, pressure should be 1 atmospheric so that boiling will take place. Now considering third example. Now there is the combination of ice, steam and water. Now here are three phases, that is ice, steam and water. Component is still one, that is H2O. Again we plug in all these two in the given equation and we get F equals to 0. That means we do not require any property to define this state. And you know what this state is called as? The state where ice, steam and water will be observed simultaneously. This state is called as the triple point. And at triple point we do not require any property or any intensive property to define that system. Simply the word triple point is sufficient to define that state. So this is all about Gibbs phase rule. Today we have learned a lot, starting from the word thermodynamics, moving towards the system, then the number of systems, its definition, again moving towards the thermodynamic equilibrium conditions, and then after that we learned about microscopic approach, macroscopic approach, Gibbs phase rule, process, properties, number of properties, intensive property, extensive property, etc., etc. And that's it for this lecture. In the next part we are going to discuss about the more fundamentals and more conceptual things about the thermodynamics, that is the reversible and irreversible processes, what are that, what are quasi-static process, Zeroth law, principle of thermometer, etc., etc. Along with that we are also going to solve few questions based on this initial part of the thermodynamics. And that's it for this lecture. See you in the next part. Thank you.